WNST City Town this weekend with thousands of other Ravens fans. We're going to be holed up at Piranha's in downtown Nashville, eating those donut burgers and that hot chicken Friday night, Saturday. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter. I'll be doing some Facebook Live down there as well. This guy joined us here in Baltimore last week. Got a chance to break a little bread with him before the game on Thursday night, before the Ravens dispatched of the Miami Dolphins and Kiko Alonso dispatched of Joe Flacco. He is at NFL Network talking all things league. He's going to be traveling around this weekend as well. He happened to be in Baltimore on Thursday night for Ravens and Dolphins. He is Omar Ruiz. You can follow him at Omar D. Ruiz out on Twitter as well as at NFL Network. First off, man, how's the California thing, man? You're flying back and forth and doing these crazy Thursday night games. You get a lot of miles you're racking up here, but you've seen a lot of football too, right?
Yeah, Nestor, I got two little kids, so it's always good to be back home with the family. But I tell you what, all this traveling, the miles, the points, it all racks up. It leads to those free vacations in the off season. So I'm away from home a little bit during the season, but more than make up for it in the downtime. You're making me hungry a little bit, talking about hot chicken and breaking bread and everything like that. Look forward to getting some good meals this week as well.
Yeah, I ain't never had a donut burger, but I've never been offered one, so I'm going to try it on Friday night down there at Piranha's. You were in town for several days last week. Just give me some general observations on the Ravens and what you saw, because certainly coming out of the Minnesota game did not look good, but to win 40-0, it's such a strange league, right? I mean, I've been talking to the Nashville people about losing to Houston 57-14. I was over in Wembley at the 35-yard line, sitting there at 11 in the morning. We're losing 44-0. I mean, week to week, you never have any idea of what you're going to find, but certainly the Thursday night games tend to be even a little stranger because of the lack of preparation time and recovery for the teams.
Well, it certainly makes it interesting, Nestor, in that you start seeing a trend go one way and you get all on board that trend, and then it goes completely the opposite. And I'll tell you what, I've covered two Ravens games this year, week one in Cincinnati and this past week against the Dolphins. I have yet to see the Ravens defense give up a point. So to me, you're asking what I see from the Ravens in person. I mean, that is a defense that deserves all that talk historically. However, there are 6 other games that they've been involved with that haven't gone exactly as they've planned. So it really is which team will define them down the stretch in this second half. Is this them turning the corner, or is this just another flash of them showing some of that potential greatness, but maybe not putting it all together? So looking forward to this game in Nashville this weekend. I think it'll say a lot about who these Ravens really are going on the road, playing a team that can be tough when they put it all together in the Titans. But certainly a must win for the Ravens. If they're going to go ahead and continue to think about the playoffs, got the bye after that, the favor of the schedule, I think might help them a little bit here in the next few weeks, but certainly that's a huge one to continue some of that momentum built off that 40-0 win over the Dolphins.
Man, we got to pack you up, take you on a road with us if we're, if we haven't given up a point defensively. Certainly, Brandon Williams is a big part of that. I saw him out playing cornhole on Monday night at the Matt Stover event for the Players of Philanthropy Fund, and we promoted all that. And he looks better and fine and normal and all that, but boy, when he's not in there, it was a completely different look against run stop. And this week with the two-headed monster they have down there in Nashville, we're going to need a stout run defense. What we saw against Jay Ajayi, who's now an Eagle, by the way. I mean, that went so poorly that they moved their running back down there. I guess Adam Gase shaking things up as was predicted on Tuesday morning. But this is as stout a run team as we're going to see, and I don't think they throw the ball well enough to not run. I mean, two-headed monster, give me either one of those running backs in Murray or Henry, and I probably can make some hay, right?
Yeah, I think Brandon Williams, you said it, he's obviously the linchpin, the big difference maker in that run defense. We talked about it all of last week, how they're tired of being last in the league and in the run, and Brandon Williams saying they've hit rock bottom and nowhere to go but up, and they certainly back that up, and Brandon Williams is the big key. I think he got a little bit of the rust off the week before, showed up on Thursday, and I think that's a defensive trend that we can expect to see going forward. Now, here I go talking about trends again, but I think, they'll show up in a big way. But, Marcus Mariota can throw the ball around. Now, will he have Corey Davis and the rest of that, receiving threat show up? That'll be the big question. I think that's always the big question for the Titans because, like you said, what you're going to get from a running perspective from those Titans, and that two-headed monster is certainly formidable to go against. But Brandon Williams, I think not only for the player that he is and the explosiveness that he brings in the trenches there, which is a rare commodity in the NFL, to have that sort of that size and explosion and power. All of that works wonders against the run. But I think he also brings an attitude to that team, to that defense, a certain level of confidence and swagger that the Ravens are familiar with throughout their history, and he provides that for this unit. So I think they're missing, obviously, what he does on the field during the time he was away, but certainly what he brings in the locker room and from an attitude perspective as well.
Yeah, I think it's real obvious when you're missing an Aaron Rodgers or you're missing a J.J. Watt. I mean, there's a reason Brandon Williams is a $12 million football player. There's a reason Marshall Yonda's going to at least the Hall of Very, Very Good somewhere near Canton, Ohio. And when you're missing those kind of players, it's not a quarterback, right? I mean, but it's a $12 million football player. And if they weren't worth that, you wouldn't pay them that. And I think it's really, really hampered the Ravens, and certainly all the injuries here. And then the play to Flacco. And I'd love to get your take on it. I mean, you were here. You were reporting on it, in the aftermath of all this, and Alonzo sending a text over. That's just the worst nightmare for the league for me. I mean, I can't think of anything more egregious within the framework of the white lines, not something that's after the whistle or something stupid that happens off the field. But on the field, having a quarterback take that sort of a hit, everything the league's been about for the last 2-3 decades has been to make sure that never, ever happens. And when it happens, I think it should, I don't want to say death penalty. I don't want to be that dramatic, but there's got to be some real repercussions for that.
Yeah, and Joe Lockhart, NFL spokesman, just said Kiko is not going to be suspended for that hit. So I would expect him to incur some heavy fines, because there is absolutely no way Kiko gets away with that hit with just a 15-yard personal foul penalty. I mean, I think that was a violation of every rule in place. I mean, he went after the quarterback who was giving himself up. He led with the head and the shoulder. He attacked the knee and the shoulder, or the knee and the shoulder of the quarterback, and then he drove into the quarterback once the contact was made. So I don't think there's any defensible way. Now, it sounds like he didn't mean to do it and the intent's not there, but these guys, Nestor, they've been playing under these rules now 3, 4, 5 years. They've been coming up this way. There's no excuse to be going away with it. And I know some people say that Joe Flacco, he slid late, but he is such a tall man. You can see that slide coming from a mile away. So I don't know what Kiko was thinking. They teach you to go for the waist, so that way when the quarterback dives, he's sliding below you, and you're either diving over him or he's giving himself up on the ground. So, no suspension, but I would expect to see a heavy fine. I think I find myself evolving as a football fan, Nestor. I'm sure you were probably the same way growing up. You see those big hits from the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Jacked up, boom, right? Jacked up was everything, right?
You get jacked up, you get excited. I'm watching that game last night, and I forget who the players were involved, but, in that, watching the Monday night game with Denver, Kansas City, I kind of cringed a little bit when I saw a hit to the head, and no more am I thinking like, wow, what a hit. It's more of like, oh man, you hate to see that. And it certainly was no exception when Joe Flacco took that hit, got up dazed. You saw the look in his face, look in his eyes. It was a little bit scary. Sounds like he's going to be okay to play this weekend, but certainly hoping for all the best. But a surprising move that Kiko wasn't suspended, but certainly I would expect to see a big fine.
He is Omar D. Ruiz out on Twitter. He's following all things NFL for the NFL Network. He was in Baltimore for the Dolphins game last week. He's got a big travel this week, and we're traveling down to Nashville. We'll be at Piranha's eating those donut burgers as well as the hot chicken in downtown Nashville. That happens on Friday night and Saturday. I want to remind everybody this portion of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Coppin State University. They are your home for Eagles basketball this winter. Everything we're going to do right here at WNST, the Juan Dixon Show, can all be found at CoppinStateSports.com as well. We are a proud flagship partner with Coppin State University for men's and women's basketball. Reminder that Al's Seafood in Essex is still there for you. Been getting crabs and crab cakes there since the 1970s. The oldest crab house in Baltimore is still at Stemmers Run and Eastern off the 702. Come down, see Chad the Crab Man. Get some of those the shrimp to take home that my mom loves so much. much with the onions and the beer and the Old Bay and all that good stuff. Miss taking a pound of those home to my mom. But Al Seafood, I shipped them out plenty of times. My parents took me down there when I was a kid as well. Big Al is also a bone marrow transplant survivor, so I want to point that out as well. Omar D. Ruiz joining us here. Where are you going to be this weekend? I'm going to be in Nashville eating hot chicken and doing all that. You're making 2 stops a week in a lot of cases, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll head up to Seattle this week to get a look at those new-look Seahawks. Dwayne Brown, big left tackle from the Texans, whom they traded for during the pre-trade deadline. And I'll get some good seafood myself up there in Seattle. Then over the weekend, head out and see the Dolphins again. Maybe they don't want to see me after being there Thursday for their 40-0 loss. But they have a big one again on Sunday Night Football against the Raiders. So I'll head out to South Florida, see the Raiders, see if they can bounce back after that big loss against Buffalo to try to salvage their season. They're in a tough stretch here, as are the Dolphins. Seems like a fire sale with that trade of Jay Ajayi, and what a collapse it has been for the Dolphins, who came into this season with so many expectations, coming off the playoff appearance last year 2 in Adam Gase, and things have seemingly fallen apart pretty quickly. And I guess that's what a Ravens defense can do to you. If you remember that shutout against the Bengals, and after week 1, Bengals followed it up with another tough game. Then they fired their offensive coordinator. So that Ravens defense has a way of getting into a lot of organization skins. We'll see how the Dolphins can bounce back after that dismantling by that Ravens defense.
You mentioned the trade deadline and, Brown going Texans to the Seahawks and Lane coming back. Then we see the Ajayi thing that happened sort of early on Tuesday, as well as the Garoppolo story that broke Monday night in the middle of the Chiefs game. It's almost like baseball a little bit, right? But you can't be so predictive of who's going to want what draft pick. I was shocked by the Garoppolo trade and the subsequent Hoyer thing that's going on there. It seemed to me they could have traded him to the Browns last year and gotten a whole lot more. But getting inside the mind of Bill Belichick, who gave away his best linebacker this time last year, I guess there is a feeling on a lot of these rosters, and certainly I think that was part of Adam Gase dealing Ajayi, that you didn't want anybody feeling safe, especially when you're a 500 football team.
Yeah, I think the Jimmy Garoppolo move, I think they realized, as it turns out, that they weren't going to sign him long term, and all the overtures that they had made to keep him around. I think he rebuffed, seeing what has come out in reports that he wants to be a starting quarterback, not just paid like one. And with Tom Brady defying Father Time repeatedly over the years, his intent to play for another few seasons. I think Jimmy G going to San Francisco is a good move for him. It's a good move for the 49ers. And everybody talks about that 2018 NFL draft class and all the potential rock stars of quarterbacks coming out. But I think if you're John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, that new regime, which is the 4th head coach in 4 years for the 49ers fans, not to mention the 0-8 start that they've come under, I think 49ers fans have certainly run out of patience. So I think it would have been a tough sell for them to say, hey, I know you suffered through 2017. You suffered through the last 3 years since we've kind of overturned this roster, and starting with Jim Harbaugh and Tom Sula and Chip Kelly and the rest of the group. And, oh, yeah, in 2018, let's ask for a little more patience with this number 1 pick, who we think is going to be good down the road, but maybe have a little more patience for this season. I don't think that was going to go over very well with that fan base. So trading for a Jimmy Garoppolo, someone who everyone says has all the world of potential. We saw what he could do in a game and a half last year, looked very good on the road against Arizona, and another half of football before he got hurt. So it seems like a win-win. Patriots get a little assets to help in return. Looked like they weren't going to be able to keep him around long term. But now the question is, is Brian Hoyer going to come back and be full circle with Tom Brady being his backup once again? But it is an interesting time, Nestor, in the NFL. It does remind me a lot of the NHL, the NBA, the MLB. Who's buyers, who's sellers in terms of these trades? It's going to be its own event here in the coming years, but it certainly has been exciting.
The other thing is just the creativity I think we've seen from the leaders of these organizations to make these deals in a way that in the old days, there just weren't any deals, right? I mean, it wasn't a part of the strategy or even the ideology. We don't make trades in the NFL in the middle of the season and trading systems and moving guys around. We've seen a lot of it around here when the Eugene Monroes have come in the middle of the year, or Bryant McKinney, or guys come off the scrap heap and come in and play. And sometimes, in the case of Alex Collins, sort of here, and what we've seen, coming in from another organization, it's there is a little bit of a breath of fresh air, but it's a very, very hard thing to be a quarterback and go do that for Garoppolo to go out there and start playing football next week, right?
Well, especially with Kyle Shanahan, everyone says his system is so complex, it's so difficult to learn. It's as great as Matt Ryan was last year with Kyle Shanahan. It took a year for him to adjust, and struggled a little bit in 2015 before he really caught fire in 2016. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly Garoppolo puts up some decent numbers, some productivity. I've been saying since the beginning of the season. Now the results haven't borne out, but the 49ers I don't think are as far away as everyone thinks they are. I think the roster is decent. I just goes to show you again in the NFL how important a quarterback is to your franchise. I mean, you could have a decent team, but if you don't have quarterback play, you might be 0-8 like these 49ers are. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly Garoppolo can turn them around. Obviously, they're not getting back into contention in 2017, but they keep losing. They get another high draft pick for 2018. Now they have Jimmy G already. They already have some pieces in place on that roster. That turnaround could happen pretty quickly.
It was a big week for good teams, right? I mean, Patriots, Chiefs, Steelers, all at 6-2 now. We got the Minnesota Vikings at 6-2 playing with Case Keenum. And then you have the Philadelphia Eagles at 7-1. You buy in what the Eagles are selling, the Eagles fly types up there. I mean, they certainly look good. And the Carson Wentz thing, it smells like a star is born in Philly, right?
I absolutely agree, Nestor. I think the Eagles are for real, and everyone kind of keeps saying Carson Wentz is playing out of his mind, and what a step he's taken. I don't think he's playing out of his mind. I just think that's who Carson Wentz is now. He is a superstar, bona fide, and he took a little lumps last year, and whenever you take your lumps as a rookie and still are able to produce at the level that Wentz did, and not hang your head when times get tough, and respond in a big way like he has this year, I think is a great sign for not only how he can play on the field, but what he can mean as a franchise quarterback, and all those feelings that can run through an organization when you have your quarterback playing well. But certainly adding Jay Ajayi with LeGarrette Blount now there in the backfield, and Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, someone I know you guys are very familiar with. I think this is the real deal, and making that move to get Ajayi just, I think, symbolizes how confident the Eagles are that they can go ahead and win games into December and January and be a contender to get to Minneapolis for the Super Bowl this year. So it's exciting to see young quarterbacks play at this level. We've seen it with Wentz, Deshaun Watson, even Jared Goff turn the corner a little bit. It'll be exciting to see now Wentz in the second half of the season play in these huge games and how he responds that way.
He is Omar D. Ruiz out on Twitter as well as at the NFL Network, flying Seattle, flying to Miami. I saw him here in Baltimore last week. Traveling man, watching a lot of football. Omar, we'll check in again, man. Hope to see you before we reconvene out in Minnesota for the Super Bowl and the Ray Lewis Hall of Fame vote and all that good stuff's going on. We're enjoying watching some NFL Network, and I appreciate you spending a little time with us today. Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Nestor. Anytime. Good to get to know you, buddy.
You got it, man. Omar D. Ruiz, the way to find him out on Twitter as well as at NFL Network. You can find me in Nashville this weekend. We'll be at Piranha's in downtown Nashville on Friday night and Saturday eating those donut burgers. Whew, hot chicken. We're going to have some cold beer, some college football, as well as probably some good football on Sunday. Hopefully we get Joe Flacco back this weekend. If he is back, you'll get that first on the WNST text service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And of course, Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday, driving you home, getting you ready for the weekend, and wrapping up the World Series and all that good stuff. It is the SSV on WNST, heard from 3 until 5 on Thursday. Luke and I will be participating as well. Want to remind everyone out there, don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need Fremont Mortgage, and Friedmont's education online at Friedmont.com. We heard Carl Delmont a little earlier this week talking some Harrisburg Heat, talking some Equifax and some other issues out there. He comes and gives us great advice, but the best advice he can give you is on the biggest thing you're going to purchase, which is a home. So if you need that advice, take that advice and get it from someone strong and credible, doing it here for more than a quarter of a century. It's crazy. They're 26 years, or 30 years, just like us here, doing it that long. Friedmont.com, also proud sponsor of all of our live events and all of our swabbings for There Goes My Hero. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'll be doing a little bit of Facebook Live down there at Piranhas in Nashville this weekend. If you're coming by, we'd love to see your face in the place Friday night and all day Saturday. Nasty at WNST.net finds me anywhere the internet is served. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.